My wife had just gone through a breakup. Every night she'd cry. I pretended not to hear it. I thought I had mastered the art of boundaries. Yet she accused me of not caring about her. Zhi how, I give you 2 million a month as pocket money. Is this how you repay me? I felt deeply ashamed. So I called the 8 girlfriends I had been seeing over to the house. They took turns trying to comfort her. After all, women understand women better, especially when there are so many of them. To my surprise, she broke down. Liu Ryan has been acting strange lately. She stopped going to the gym. She canceled a girls' gathering. Her WeChat signature changed to "I'm planning for the future." Well, I was left wondering if she was planning to leave. She used to never be home. Now she returns earlier than I do. Suddenly, she flipped the light on. I saw her lying on the couch with a gloomy expression. She looked like she was about to shatter. This state of hers ... It was most likely because of the little pretty boy she'd been seeing recently. They probably broke up. As her legal husband, I quietly closed the bedroom door. Then I sighed and shook my head. Fortunately, my relationships with my girlfriends were stable. We were inseparable. We couldn't bear to be apart for even a second. I thought, given how quickly Liu Ryan moves from man to man, she would soon recover from this heartbreak. To my surprise, Liu Ryan suddenly turned around, with eyes swollen and puffed up like walnuts. She angrily accused me. Zhi how, I've been crying for days. You've been playing the role of a cage for days. Are you afraid of causing yourself trouble? Is this how you behave as a husband? I was stunned by her shouting. It took me a few seconds to process what had happened. The implication in her words was that I should comfort her. When a woman is hurt by another man, she comes home and cries to her husband. After all, we're married. It's not that I don't want to comfort her, but I'm in love myself. She's heartbroken, but I just can't empathize. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I bring up her painful memories? The less I say, the less I can mess up. I met Liu Ryan's expectant gaze, nodding faintly with a red nose and a soft O. Liu Ryan completely broke down. In pain, she suddenly sat up from the blanket. She pointed at my nose, bitterly and indignantly saying, Zhi how, I give you 2 million a month as pocket money. You went from being a rural pig farmer to becoming the envy of everyone as the son-in-law of the Liu family. This is how you repay me. Your conscience has been eaten by a pig. Liu Ryan went on a rant. I felt so guilty I couldn't lift my head. I remembered back when I was raising pigs in the village, dreaming of getting rich overnight. And then Liu Ryan came and said, I'm not happy with the marriage they've arranged for me. They found some rural pig farmer. And just like that, I transformed. I became the son-in-law of the Liu family on the night of our wedding. Liu Ryan threw me a cold, beautiful profile. She tossed a bank card at me and said the sweetest words in the world. Zhi Heng, you're just a tool I found. If you're smart, don't hold on to unrealistic fantasies. Liu Ryan, would never fall for a pig farmer. Although you're good looking. At the end of the day, we're from different social classes. From now on, we'll live our own lives. To make up for it, I'll give you 2 million as pocket money every month. Don't complain it's too little. Someone like you, living off of a woman, is only worth that much. No complaints, understood? 2 million a month, that's a lot. Besides, this is my old line of work. I just sent off an old rich woman a couple of years ago. This time, no difficult prostitutes to deal with. My wife doesn't come home, and I don't have to work myself to death earning money. Consider yourself lucky. You have to fight me for it. Tonight, I'm the one who's going to comfort her. I slowly reached out my hand and awkwardly patted Liu Ryan's back. My gaze was sincere, filled with genuine sympathy. Don't be sad. Next time, just find someone who doesn't have a wife. I hadn't even finished my sentence When Liu Ryan was already so angry that her lips twitched, I almost called an ambulance before she stormed out. She left me with one final remark. Zhi Heng, if you don't find a way to comfort me this month, what is this trying to take my life? What about my 8 treasures? Winter is almost here. I was counting on that money to buy them all high-end custom coats. I can't bear to see them suffer. They're still young. Their skin is delicate. They can't settle for less. I was so anxious I couldn't sleep. I got up in the middle of the night and sent a message to the cold, elegant woman I had just added on WeChat. It had been several days, and all she replied was a dry okay. She's really hard to flirt with. She's got nothing on Bai Zhi, the daughter of the old rich woman. Thankfully, after the old rich woman was buried, I quickly escaped. When I couldn't think of anything to say, I decided to just give up and go for it. I asked her. My friend's wife just went through a breakup. She cries every night. My friend's heart is breaking because of it. What can he do to cheer his wife up? To my surprise, she replied almost immediately. It's simple. Let your friend's girlfriend comfort her. Women understand women better. I slapped my thigh in excitement. This method is brilliant. Why didn't I think of that? So the next day, I prepared a feast with fine food and wine. I invited all 8 of my girlfriends over to my house. They took turns giving advice. After all, women understand women better. And with so many women, I don't believe she can't get over it. Big sister Liu, you're the daughter of the Liu family in Beijing. How can you let a man who doesn't love you make you so miserable? Goodbye means goodbye. Next one, move on. Third sister Liu, if nothing else works, why not try becoming a monk for a while? Third sister even took out a wooden fish, planning to chant with Liu Ryan. This wouldn't do, so I quickly gave sixth sister a meaningful glance. The eldest sister had high emotional intelligence. Her words were much smoother than the others. Sixth sister brushed past the crowd, skillfully wrapped her arm around Liu Ryan's shoulder. Sister Liu, heartbreak or terminal cancer? Which one would you choose? Liu Ryan stopped crying and seriously thought about it. After a moment, she replied, heartbreak. Now, heartbreak or never getting rich in your life? Which one would you choose? Heartbreak. See, there you go. Sixth sister clapped her hands in satisfaction. Still feeling sad? Not as much, I guess. The 8 of them successfully completed their mission and left. Liu Ryan and I stood at the door, watching them leave. For the first time, there was a look of admiration in Liu Ryan's eyes as she looked at me. Zhi Heng, I always thought you were just a boring country bumpkin. I never expected you to have such interesting people around you. To be honest, I'm starting to get curious about you. Maybe, just maybe, you'll become my real husband someday. If you perform well, I might even consider having a child with you. After all, for a man like you, living off a woman, having a child would be a guarantee. By the way, what's your relationship with them? Still waving goodbye to the 8 of them with reluctance, I absent-mindedly answered. These girlfriends were all ones I met this year. The ones from last year I broke up with. Recently, I've got my eye on someone new. Although she only posted a few photos of herself in black stockings, based on my years of experience, I can guarantee she's a real beauty. But sadly, she's too cold and distant. She doesn't even bother replying to my WeChat messages. Ha ha ha, I love her even more now. After saying that, I gave a lecherous grin for a few seconds, then realized what I just said. Damn it, I've exposed myself. Liu Ryan's face turned an unprecedented shade of awkwardness. A flush appeared on her delicate face. Her teeth were clenched tightly. Her eyes were blazing with anger and dissatisfaction. I opened my mouth to explain, but she grabbed my tie, pulling me forward by an inch. Zhi, how? I underestimated you. You'd better confess honestly. How many damn green hats have you made me wear? I trembled and stretched out my hand. making a swearing gesture. I swear never more than 2 rounds of mahjong. Besides, I was worried there were too many people. They couldn't get along. Liu Ryan laughed bitterly in rage. Very good, playing with the pocket money I gave you, better than I ever did. You've really got some guts. Let's see what happens when the people in your circle find out. Where does that leave? The face of Liu, family's eldest daughter? Zhi, how? I think you have no need to be the Liu family's son-in-law anymore. You're done. The god of wealth wants to divorce me. This time, I was really panicking. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. With no other choice, I went to the male model bar that Liu Ryan frequently visited. I found her in a dimly lit private room. Liu Ryan was lazily lounging in the center of the sofa. A group of tall, muscular men surrounded her. I counted exactly 8 of them. I guess I was still too narrow-minded. If it were me, I would have called 16. Brother-in-law, what brings you here? Her friends sat up straight when they saw me enter the room. They had that look of, I just want to watch the drama unfold. Let's take our Liu sister home. When did our Liu sister become so quiet and withdrawn? Upon hearing that, Liu Ryan let out a subtle, cold snort. She mocked, did you really think you were my husband? Unrealistic. Brother-in-law, don't mind her. Liu's sister's just playing along with them. She settled down once she gets older. I clenched my jaw and said nothing. A few seconds later, I lowered my head. As if I were yielding. I gazed at her with suppressed pain. As if, no matter what mistakes she made, I would endure it like a loyal dog. Endlessly tolerating her. Wife, I was wrong. I beg you, don't divorce me. Without you, I'm like a fish. Out of water. I can't survive, even if you bring 10 male models at once. It made the few people who were originally waiting for a joke burst into tears. He really loves her so much. It was practically pure love in action. The things I said earlier really hurt. I envy Liu Ya so much, having a husband who loves him and tolerates him so much. Why can't I have something this good? Liu Ryan's vanity was greatly satisfied in front of her group of good sisters. She waved away the few male models around her. Then she invited me and her friends to welcome a powerful woman. It's said that this powerful woman comes from a prestigious family. But she doesn't rely on her background. She's single and reclusive, and has spent 2 years mastering the economic backbone of the world. Even Liu Ryan, the eldest daughter of the Liu family, has to be extremely cautious in her presence. In short, one word, impressive. I was genuinely curious about who this big shot was. The last time I was so surprised, it was Bai Zhi, that genius little madwoman. Speaking of Bai Zhi, she should have inherited the Bai family's fortune by now. She probably still rules the world. Then, find a man who matches her family background. Lin Yin might even have a second child by now, while I'm still stuck working my ass off. I wanted to cry, but just as the private room door slowly opened, I looked at the woman who walked in. Her usual cold, aloof expression, her exquisitely beautiful features, carrying a seductive, yet untouchable aura. I was stunned. It was actually Bai Zhi. She, the unapproachable powerful woman, enemies on the same narrow road. Why isn't she staying in her own room? What's she doing here? Is she here to take revenge for what happened that night? The scene from that night flashed quickly in my mind, binding her hands and gripping her chin. The girl's eyes were red and she stubbornly said, Zhi Heng, have you forgotten your place? You're nothing but a boy toy my blind mother picked for me. You dared to touch me? Stop! I didn't listen. I swear nothing happened between me and your mother. I'm not a toy boy. You've been spreading rumors about us, haven't you? I'll show you what it means to be involved with someone. What followed was appalling. The high and mighty Bai family heir was bound by me and forced to recite the 3-character classic the entire night. Her mouth still refused to admit defeat. She angrily warned me. Zhi Heng, you better hope I don't get my hands on you. I didn't take her seriously. When she fell asleep, I slipped away under the cover of night. The thought of her waking up the next day, searching everywhere and not finding any trace of me, made me feel liberated. I naively thought, I'll never cross paths with Bai Zhi again in this life. But tonight, fate had other plans. Given her vindictive nature, she would surely. After all, the Bai family is rumored to have started in the gray industries. It was all the alcohol's fault. That's why I dared to provoke a crazy woman. Booter, please protect me, don't let her find out. So I quietly retreated behind the crowd, planning to slip away when they weren't paying attention. Success was within my reach. But suddenly, the waiter pushed open the door. I was exposed in front of everyone. That sharp gaze immediately turned toward me. Mr. Z, you look like an old acquaintance of mine. If you didn't look closely, you'd think they were the same person. Bai Zhi gave me a casual glance. She elegantly picked up her wine glass and took a sip. My heart jumped to my throat. Liu Ryan's friends teased. What a coincidence! Could this old acquaintance be your ex-boyfriend? Bai Zhi smiled slightly. Her already beautiful face became even more seductive. He's the toy boy my mother raised. My mother ran off the night she was buried. I don't know why he ran off. Could he be worried the Bai family can't support him? What do you think, Mr. Z? I wiped the sweat off my forehead, my hand trembling. Maybe I was just a kind, not wanting to cause you trouble. Bai Zhi laughed as if she had heard a funny joke. The toy boy my mother raised is a typical scumbag. When my mother was still alive, he dared to boldly cuckold my mother. What a piece of trash! Men really aren't worth trusting. Our brother-in-law is nothing like him. Liu Ya can count on her husband. He's devoted, always doing what she says. And this brother-in-law is so pure it's almost tragic. Aside from Liu Ya, there's absolutely no one else. Right, Liu Ya? Liu Ryan almost dropped her glass. That's right, Zhi Heng. Aside from me, there's absolutely no other woman. Liu Ryan's friends looked at me with expressions of triumph, throwing me knowing glances. I helplessly gave in. You really are something. Bai Zhi raised an elegant eyebrow. Mr. Z, you sound like a great man. If I find him, I'll bring him back to the Gu family and take care of him properly. The last for words. Bai Zhi spat out with gritted teeth. She heavily placed her wine glass down. I suddenly felt like someone had their hand around my throat, choking me. A feeling of bitter helplessness overwhelmed me. Could it be possible? That woman was your mother's lover? I was just the one who took $1 million from him, helping him cover up things. Why am I being blamed for everything? I'm more wrong than Do-e. I shakily set my glass down. Pale-faced, I said too. Liu Ryan beside me. Dear, I suddenly remembered something at home. That little mad woman's presence was even stronger than 2 years ago. Her stare sent chills down my spine. Once I left the private room, I couldn't help but want to slap myself. Zhi Heng, oh Zhi Heng, you dug your own grave. You should have just taken the money and run in the first place. Why did you have to complicate things? Why go and offend that little mad woman Bai Zhi? She's crazy enough to make up her own rumors. No, I have to find a way to run. Suddenly, a pair of slender, fair arms grabbed mine and dragged me into the next private room, which was empty. Before I could even react, Bai Zhi grabbed my tie and pushed me against the wall. The position was very intimate. Couldn't we talk things out? Bai Zhi, agitated, yanked at my tie. Gone was her gentle and graceful demeanor. I asked, what's wrong? Can't find anyone? You ran off to the countryside? Zhi Heng, you really are full of surprises. You swore when my mother died, you'd fight me for the family inheritance. But now that she's dead, you ran away? I thought you were going to stay and fight me for life. What do you understand? Are you really this afraid of me? I was almost on the verge of tears. I may be a man, but it's one thing for You to be a master of taekwondo and martial arts. It's another for you. To have a high IQ and to be ruthless in your methods. When I came in. Or is it that Mr. Z has too many important things to remember and has long forgotten what happened that night with me? Bai Zhi's brow furrowed. She tightened her grip on my wrist. A red mark appeared on her fair skin. She endured the pain, her eyes filled with fear and defiance, staring at me. Having known Bai Zhi for so long, I understood that she had a strange obsession with watching men cry. Bai Zhi, you think you're so clever. But have you never considered that I had my reasons? In fact, I have a split personality. It was my second personality that did those ridiculous things. I was afraid it would hurt you. That's why I had to leave. Ziheng, do you think I'm like my mom? That I was completely mesmerized by you? That I'd believe such nonsense? Bai Zhi angrily grabbed my hand and slammed it against the wall. Her cold, stunning face leaned in close. The proximity was too much. My heart skipped a beat. My pulse quickened involuntarily. Bai Zhi had a bad temper. Her personality cold, but her beauty was beyond compare. Being this close made my mind race. It felt like I'd do anything for her. That night, I only wanted to scare her. But my mind suddenly went out of control. And I ended up kissing her. After being pushed away, I immediately received a slap. I was filled with regret. Such actions were not what a man should do. I was about to apologize, but my chest tightened sharply. A kiss that was so different from his usual personality. Sweet and gentle. I was completely stunned. Let's take a step back. He wasn't wrong in the slightest. You have no idea how ruthless this move of his was. A total emotional rookie. Had his figure occupying my thoughts for over half a year. He kissed me and then just ran off. Not even a single word left behind. And then he went and married someone else. Ziheng, do you think I'm as easy to deceive as a blank sheet of paper? I get it now. So you want me to give you an explanation? I understand perfectly. I can make it up to you. What do I lack? A few insignificant things. A couple of extra fingers? You can chop them off to cool off. But let me make one thing clear. You can only chop one. How many times do I have to tell you? Our family is not a mafia. This isn't allowed. That's not allowed. Fine, give up entirely. I'm also missing a girlfriend. Do you want to be one? Bai Zhi's face turned completely black, like the bottom of a pot. She clenched her fists tightly. Her eyes were wide with fury, not a small amount of anger. You're divorcing her? This plot development feels all wrong. It's like the evil female side character is trying to take over as the lead. Has she started developing feelings for me? I shook my head violently. Absolutely not. Back when I was at the Bai family's house, he couldn't stand me. He made trouble with me every day. We were at odds for 2 whole years. Even his mother's side, whenever she saw us, she claimed that life was unbearable. That she wanted to die sooner. No, wait, she wanted to die sooner to go to heaven and escape the mess. A few times, I caught her secretly pulling out his oxygen tube. Thankfully, I stopped her just in time. To sum it up, he must be trying to get revenge on me. But why? Why is he's getting back at me by sending me flirtatious texts? It's too cruel. For several days, Liu Ruyin and her group of girlfriends were so drunk they couldn't even recognize themselves. It was strange when they came back. Last time, when she was breaking up with that pretty boy, she didn't get this upset. Out of curiosity, I asked her friends. Her friends sighed and said, "Don't even mention it." The last time, we didn't even get to talk things out. But now, for days on end, that blank sheet of paper was drinking like her life depended on it with Liu Ya. Fearing that Liu Ya would go home sober. Those in the know might think she stole the person he likes away from him. I quietly lowered my head, not daring to speak. The next afternoon, When Liu Ruyan woke up, I was playing a game in the living room. After she freshened up, she changed into a slightly more mature and elegant black dress. She suddenly said she wanted to take me out for dinner. The place was a couple's restaurant. Before the dishes even arrived, she expressionlessly threw me a bank card. There were 5 million inside. Take this money and sever ties with those people. I'll pretend this never happened. Zihao, this is my final bottom line. Don't let this happen again. I respectfully took the bank card. Thank you, wife. It really was time for a new batch of people. Suddenly, a loud bang sounded from behind me. I turned around to look. A guy who looked like a mix between a little puppy and a little wolf. He seemed to have just graduated recently. He accidentally broke a bottle of red wine. The manager rushed over when he heard the noise. He scolded the male employee without hesitation. I was just watching the show. Liu Ruyan, for some unknown reason, gave me a cold glare, then walked over gracefully, stepping in front of the male employee. I'll pay for the wine. How much is it? When the manager saw it was Liu Ruyan, he immediately changed his tone to one of respect. But to everyone's surprise, the male employee, proud as he was, refused Liu Ruyan's offer, saying, "I don't need your help. I broke it, I'll pay for it myself." The manager was nearly driven mad. You only earn 4,000 a month. How are you going to pay for it? If I sold you, I couldn't even afford it. Liu Ruyan shot the manager an unhappy glance, then unusually softening her tone. Don't be so stubborn. We have no relationship. I don't need your help. The male employee was deeply insulted and broke down emotionally on the spot. He kicked over a nearby trash can, then ran off, before glaring at me fiercely one last time. Without hesitation, Liu Ruyan chased after him. I, along with the others watching, and even the manager, were all stunned. A couple of madmen. The Spring Festival Gala couldn't even compare to the drama you two are creating. We may be complaining, but I'm still quite curious. Sure enough, when I walked back from the dressing room, I heard ambiguous sounds coming from inside. My heart skipped a beat. Through the gap, I could clearly see the people inside, locked in an intimate kiss, were none other than Liu Ruyan and the male employee from earlier. It seemed like he was the pretty boy Liu Ruyan had been keeping. He was indeed good-looking, and his physique was quite strong, exactly the type Liu Ruyan liked. Baby, who's better, me or your husband? Say something, don't just stay silent. Liu Ruyan was shattered by the male employee's movements. I was so absorbed in watching that I accidentally bumped into the door. The people inside noticed and immediately stopped their shameful actions. I quickly turned to run, but unexpectedly bumped into someone. I spun around to flee, but Bai Zhi had already predicted my move and pulled me into the nearby dressing room. In the cramped space, Bai Zhi and I were pressed tightly together. The atmosphere was strangely awkward. I tried to shift away, but then Bai Zhi's lazy, soft voice came, dripping seductively from beneath my neck. Why do you tolerate him so much? I held back the lump in my throat and answered, because I love him. Bai Zhi chuckled softly, easily seeing through my thoughts. This isn't like you. Compared to love, you love money more. I didn't answer. When Bai Zhi walked me to the door, she suddenly said out of nowhere, Zihang, why do you need so many of them? What's the point? At the time, I didn't understand what she meant. It wasn't until the day I arranged to meet my girlfriends that it became clear. That afternoon, I put on a tailored suit. My hair, brushed over my forehead, made me look both melancholic and affectionate, as if anything I did was justifiable. We'd been together for half a year. Although we never had a physical relationship, I provided them with plenty of emotional value, so I couldn't treat them unfairly. When I arrived at the cafe, I saw all 8 of them seated, filling to whole tables. My heart swelled with emotion. I thought of the moments I'd shared with them. The male employee spotted me sitting in the middle and assumed I was interviewing models, grinning like a greedy cat. But when he saw me pull out a bank card and place it on the table, his expression changed to surprise. His jaw dropped, practically unhinged. I didn't care about the noise around me. I held each of their hands, feeling a bittersweet sadness. There's 5 million in here. The 8 of you can split it. Go back and live your lives properly. If your brother is sick, get him treated. If your family has debts, pay them off. Just pretend. Pretend I never existed. After this, I turned away, covering my face, intending to leave. The eldest one, her eyes red, stopped me. The 6th one pushed the bank card back to me. Brother, keep this money for yourself. Someone's already arranged things for us. Don't worry, brother. We'll be fine. The time we spent together was very happy. We'll always remember. Brother, don't ever contact us again. After finishing their words, the 8 of them left without looking back, leaving me standing there, completely dumbfounded. Who the hell stole my scene? The part of dating I enjoy the most is breaking up with my girlfriend, saying tenderly, I love you so much, but let's never meet again. But now it's ruined. It's like I'm the one being dismissed by them. I was so angry I was shaking all over. All the effort I'd put in for half a year was destroyed. It must have been that little mad woman, Bai Zhi, behind this. As for that, Bai Zhi's explanation was that I didn't even want to be a mistress, and still expected me to be the 9th one. Zhiheng, Bai Zhi, am not someone you can play with. You must take responsibility for me. I was so mad I almost threw my phone. Furious, I returned home. Before I could even take a sip of water, Liu Ruyan shoved me in front of a few handsome men. Excuse me, gentlemen. We need to attend a party tonight. 2 hours later, I was wearing a tailored suit, with my hair slicked back in an 82-side part. I looked incredibly elegant and refined. When I walked out of the room, Liu Ruyan and her sisters were all stunned. This is your brother-in-law? My God. I never imagined that your brother-in-law usually dressed so. He looked so handsome when he was dressed up. I dare say even those idols aren't as good-looking as him. I can't blame their exaggerated reactions. To maintain my pig farmer image, I usually dress in a rather plain manner. My style is all about mirrors. That's why Liu Ruyan always calls me a country bumpkin. I didn't think I deserved him. When I put on this outfit, it felt like I was back in my own home. Although Bai Zhi and I were just pretending to be a couple, her mother had never treated me badly. Even Bai Zhi was the same. At the party, I made quite an impression. The reason was simple. Everyone knew the young lady of the Liu family married me, a man living off her, just to spite her parents. Naturally, my looks weren't anything special. Otherwise, Liu Ruyan wouldn't be spending her nights with male models. But unfortunately, I didn't look like what they thought I would. I was just the live-in son-in-law of the Liu family. They said I was old and out of style. But instead, I turned out to be a young, handsome guy. What young, handsome guy? I'm just a man living off her. A man who doesn't even dare to speak up after getting cuckolded. I heard that in order to please Miss Liu. I even went as far as to get plastic surgery in places like that. So, this is the kind of gossip the upper circles spread? I shook my head in disappointment. Then I retreated to a corner and sent a message to the cold, elegant lady. And his wife doing? Almost got divorced. Cold and elegant lady, he doesn't want a divorce? Or is it that his wife doesn't want them to? How long do they want to drag this out? That commanding tone was starting to sound strangely familiar. As I wondered, suddenly someone slammed into my shoulder. Rather than saying they bumped into me, it felt more like they pushed me. When I saw myself fall to the ground, the guy in front of me showed a smug expression. In the next second, his face changed to an innocent one. Feng Chong had accidentally spilled a glass of red wine on me. This guy! was the male employee who had been with Liu Ruyan that day. Looks like he was looking for trouble. I wasn't going to let him get away with it. I grabbed a glass and threw it right back at him. This action immediately drew the attention of those around us. Liu Ruyan and her sisters hurried over, looking nervous. The male employee saw this and immediately started apologizing. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I'm just a worker. Please don't make things hard for me." While speaking, he collapsed on the ground. "Zihang, what are you doing?" Liu Ruyan yelled, rushing over, heartbroken, to shield the guy. "Guyu, are you alright?" The guy named Guyu fell into Liu Ruyan's arms. "Sister, don't blame him. It's my fault for being reckless and coming here to find you. I just missed you too much. I couldn't control myself. I won't do this again." No wonder Liu Ruyan, this old fox, was completely captivated by him. Liu Ruyan's gaze towards me was full of murderous intent. "Who do you think you are? Why are you treating Guyu like this? If anything happens to him, 10 of your lives wouldn't be enough to pay for it. Forget it, there's no point in reasoning with these idiots. Better to play dead. Give them a surprise." So I closed my eyes and collapsed to the ground. No one could wake me up. As more and more people gathered around, Liu Ruyan began to panic. After all, she had just threatened me. If anything happened to me, she would definitely be involved. Guyu panicked as well. He hurriedly waved his hands, explaining, "It's not my fault. I didn't do anything." Liu Ruyan's sisters, unable to tolerate it any longer, stepped forward to speak up for me. Brother-in-law must have fainted from the sadness. "Liu, yeah, you've been together for so long. You shouldn't treat him this way for a man who's just playing around. Brother-in-law just loves you too much. He didn't do anything wrong." The voices around us echoed, criticizing Liu Ruyan. "That's right. Who would abandon their husband and protect the mistress? Some people are even making money off this and still act innocent. That guy's just a lazy good-for-nothing. He has hands and legs. Why isn't he working? Why is he living off others?" Guyu's face turned red with shame, and he couldn't care less about his face. He picked up a nearby ice bucket and walked up to me. "If you're going to faint, then faint. Who knows if it's real or not?" he said, and then tried to pounce on me. But unexpectedly, a man in black suddenly appeared and firmly grabbed my arm. From Bai Zhi's beautiful face, there was an undeniable air of nobility that commanded no intrusion. With just a glance, the bodyguard pulled back, and Guyu cried out in pain. His muscles were like white jade, probably some kind of bodyguard. Bai Zhi's aura was too strong. Even Liu Ruyan, who usually did whatever she wanted, didn't dare to move recklessly in front of him. She could only let Bai Zhi do as she pleased. Two bodyguards lifted me up, preparing to leave. Liu Ruyan shouted, "Miss Bai," in front of so many people. "Isn't it inappropriate to take someone else's husband?" Bai Zhi didn't even spare her a glance. "Miss Liu, if you're interested in him, why not just let me have him? I'm quite satisfied with him." That arrogant statement made the murmurs of the crowd instantly fall silent. Everyone was stunned, mouths agape. Only Liu Ruyan's sisters whispered, "So bold. I should have known. I wouldn't have come if I had known this would happen." Liu Ruyan probably felt embarrassed and disregarded Guyu's attempts to stop her, angrily rushing forward to block Bai Zhi. But she was stopped by a group of bodyguards. Liu Ruyan had always been spoiled and reckless, but when she finally encountered someone who could push back, she didn't dare make a move. "Zhi Hao, how long are you going to pretend to sleep?" Bai Zhi finished washing up and came out. I had gotten too deep into the act. Bai Zhi sat beside me, her tone full of helplessness. I rolled over. "Don't say it, I know I'm embarrassing." Bai Zhi walked over and pulled open a curtain. I blocked my face with my arm. In a gentle voice, she said, "Before, at home, I was fearless. Now, How is it that I can't even handle to insignificant people? Ziheng, don't embarrass me. If anything happens, I'll take care of it. In the dimly lit room, Bai Zhi's eyes were clear. Her lips were rosy. Her black hair draped over her shoulders. She was full of charm. I unconsciously lifted my hand, but quickly pulled it back. Unexpectedly, Bai Zhi grabbed my hand as it was about to fall. Ziheng, why do you need to find a girlfriend who looks like me? I almost choked on my words. I can see it. So embarrassing. Well, I should go back. I pulled my hand away, hurriedly getting off the bed. Thank you, thank you. A piece of paper pressed down on my shoulder. It followed the momentum and sat on my lap. The fragrance of shower gel filled the air. It broke down every last bit of my inner defenses. He spoke, Ziheng. You're so flustered. Is it hard for you not to be nervous when you're facing me? It made me panic completely. I opened my mouth, wanting to argue, but by some strange twist of fate, I kissed him instead. The soft sensation flooded my senses. My mind stopped functioning entirely. I foolishly pushed him away. I really need to go back. Liu Ryan's expression darkened. She returned to her previous, distant demeanor, hard to approach. Ziheng left him. He's with me now. I know you're just a couple in name, nothing more. He finished speaking. I dared not stay any longer. Seeing my determination to leave, Liu Ryan no longer tried to stop him. She calmly stood up from the bed. I'll take you to the elevator. As we entered the elevator, I turned around and saw Bai Zhi standing across from me. Her skin, faintly visible, complemented the lingering fragrance of the shower she had just taken. It made my mouth dry. And before I could stop myself, I found my gaze locked on the lips I had just kissed. A voice inside my head kept screaming to taste them again. Bai Zhi had barely spoken a word when I acted recklessly. Rushing out through the slowly closing elevator doors, I lunged forward and kissed her. Then I lifted her off the ground. I kissed her frantically. In fact, my stamina was good. I wasn't weak. As she responded, she smiled slyly. On the phone screen, the words Liu Ryan kept appearing. Bai Zhi saw it. She quickly picked up the phone and turned it off. Afterward, Bai Zhi ran her fingers over my back, lost in the moment. From now on, you're mine. I searched for you for 2 whole years. I'm glad I found you. Divorcing Liu Ryan was simpler than I had imagined. After finishing, I casually grabbed my suitcase, ready to leave. But just as I reached the door, Liu Ryan suddenly said, Ziheng, did you ever really like me? I turned around, my expression neutral. Liu Ryan looked in bad shape. Her pale lips made her seem like she hadn't slept in days. She looked even more haggard than when he had been heartbroken. But what does that have to do with me? I answered firmly, of course not. I was just someone you used to get back at your parents. Do you really think asking me a question like that is funny? Do you honestly think we're a couple? Wake up, Liu Ryan. Liu Ryan, enraged, threw a pillow at me. Bastard, how did you get involved with that woman? Was it that night at the bar? Or had you already been involved? I almost forgot. Being a kept man is your specialty. Doesn't she mind that you're useless? I remained silent. I shook off her hand and turned to leave. Beside us, Guliu looked on like a nurse's dog, eager to intervene. He rushed forward, ready to fight me. I kicked him, and he immediately calmed down. As expected, just a feeder machine. I finished and ran, not giving them a chance to react. It felt so good that even the weather seemed to improve. After leaving the Liu family, I spotted Bai Zhi ahead from a distance. I suddenly stopped in my tracks, then turned and walked in the opposite direction, pulling my suitcase. In my heart, I whispered, sorry, Bai Zhi. I'm going back on my word. Before boarding, I walked toward the check-in gate, not looking back. The flight took off smoothly, And while enjoying the meal in first class, a pair of long, straight legs appeared in front of me. I wondered curiously where this beauty came from. As my gaze moved up, I saw Bai Zhi smirk, her smile cold and eerie. "Zhi Heng, you can't run away." I was so startled that my sunglasses fell to the floor. "Bai Zhi, Zhi Heng, you liar. This time, I won't believe anything you say." I sighed. Pre-marriage trips don't have to be taken together. How can it still be called a pre-marriage trip if we travel separately? Don't think I don't know what you're up to. Zhi Hao, don't even think about pulling any tricks under my nose. We argued the entire way, and the whole trip was essentially meaningless. Do you know the feeling of being surrounded by beautiful women, but not daring to look at a single one? Thinking you've mastered the boundaries between husband and wife. While Bai Zhi was washing up, I accidentally sent a WeChat message to the cold and elegant woman. But instead, Bai Zhi's phone rang. I picked it up and looked. And it turned out that the cold, elegant woman was Bai Zhi. No wonder she didn't show her face. It seems like this was all to mess with me. "I admire you," I said, clapping my hands, as expected of my wife. So clever. When Bai Zhi finished washing up and saw my expression and the phone in my hand, she immediately realized she had been caught. She smiled and came over to hug me. "Baby, I was wrong. Later, you can punish me however you want. Please don't be angry. Baby, I won't listen to any explanations." I pushed her down roughly and kissed her hard. Suddenly, Bai Zhi seemed to remember something. She looked up and said, "Wait a minute. Baby, why did you send a message from your WeChat secondary account? Was it really an accident?" "Of course it was," I replied. "Don't distract me. My stamina's even better lately." Hearing this, Bai Zhi, understanding immediately, hooked her arms around my neck and flipped me over. "Let's see who's stronger," she said, grinning.